Hello and welcome to the University of Illinois WebCon 2025. My name is Megan Johnson and I'm one of the conference hosts. This year's conference is sponsored by Pixo, the Office of the CIO, Carnegie, and AITS. Be sure to check out their exhibitor booths to learn more. This session is digital storytelling with everyday tools, and our speaker is David Needham. We're going to have muted your mics when you come in, but you can unmute yourself at the end when it's time for question and answers. You can submit questions in the chat at any time. We are going to hold off on answering those until after David is finished, but I'm going to mark them all with a question mark emoji so it makes it easy for David to find them. And let's see, you can find your presentation slides in the presentation slides chat room when you are in the lobby. You can also find them down in the resources tab at the bottom of your Zoom. Our presenter isn't planning to use any breakout rooms, so we're all set. And if you have any technical questions, please let us know in the chat box or message our tech moderator today, who is Jerica Hood, and you can find her there in the participants list. And without further ado, David, it is now on to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Megan and Jerica and everyone else at WebCon. I am so delighted to be here. So today we're going to be talking about digital storytelling with everyday tools. I'm going to share why you shouldn't wait to tell your story, and along the way, I'll reveal some solutions to help you make impressive content using the tools that you probably already have around you. So before we get started, I would love to kind of warm up the chat a little bit and learn a little bit about who's here. So if you don't mind, I would love to see in the chat, what is your role and what problem do you want this session to solve today? That should help focus a little bit. Obviously, I still have slides, though I apologize in advance. I did make some last minute changes to my slide deck, so it is not exactly the same as the one that was uploaded. I will make sure that that gets to the WebCon team so that it gets uploaded as quickly as we can after this session. All right, so I'm looking for what is your role? What problem do you want this session to solve? I should also start maybe with a little bit of the elephant in the room. I am not directly associated with the university itself. The concepts I'm going to be sharing here today will be just as relevant to you as anyone else, but I would greatly appreciate your help in the chat. Make this a little bit of a collaborative thing with any university-specific ideas or resources that you think other people in the audience might appreciate knowing about. I guarantee that your help is going to help make this presentation even more valuable. All right. I'm seeing some things come through the chat. Very good, very good. Okay, exciting. I have good news for you. I think that we are going to have a good time today because I think that there are some things I'm going to be able to share that will be able to help you out. All right. Oh, I haven't introduced myself yet. So, my name is David Needham. I am the founder of Storytech Media, a small Champaign-based company that helps families record, preserve, and share their stories. Sometimes it means digitizing old photos and videos. Sometimes it means conducting interviews and doing family documentaries and videography. But I have found over the years that I am happiest when I am working where education, technology, and storytelling overlap. So the good news is that that is exactly where we are here today. We are all about storytelling for this session. Hopefully you'll be learning something with my presentation, and we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks, some tech, some equipment, some strategies that will touch on the technology piece. Um, so in the past, I've been a developer advocate. I've been all sorts of different roles that have involved teaching people and presenting and things like that. So this is a lot of fun. And today, with my current role, I have the pleasure of using what I've learned about technology to help families. This has also given me an intentional choice about allowing me to be able to mentor my kids, who are ages 2 to 11, as they explore their own interests in storytelling and videography. Now, full disclosure, some of the tips and tricks that I am going to share today are things that I've learned from working with my kids directly. But first, let me ask you a question. How often are you expected to prove an idea is valuable before you have the resources to do it successfully? Now, I don't know about you. I have found that kids are experts at finding creative, brilliant solutions to use what they have around them, the resources that they already have, what we've given them, to tell incredible stories. So I'm going to encourage you to think the same way. Personally, professionally, I regularly found myself butting up against things like this, where we would have an amazing idea, at least I thought it was an amazing idea, and I'd get approval to experiment with it, but I had to use what I had around me to actually make it possible. So, my hope is that through this talk today, you will have some ideas to start working an idea, to start developing it, trying it out, maybe like MacGyver a solution to see if this is a concept that has legs. And if it does, maybe give you some options for getting funding or approval to hire or to do whatever you need to do to see this project completed and successful. So, one of the most exciting things to get into, I think, for this talk is going to be some of the equipment. So, um, what do we need to accomplish with the tools that we have right now? And I should say the technology that we have at our fingertips today is unlike anything I could have imagined back in college, shooting on a little mini DV camcorder or a Canon Rebel DSLR. Frankly, the sorts of things I can do on my phone today, just a standard smartphone in my pocket, is years of like way, way, way better than anything I shot way back then. I've looked at videos from back then. It's blurry. It's a little bit, low quality, low definition. It's really special. So we are in a pretty cool place. Let's start by talking about lighting, though. So professional lighting, right? There's a time and place for that, and you're going to see as I go through and talk about all these different concepts, we're going to explain that there's going to be some like here's what the professionals are using, here's what I'm suggesting you start with, or how you can sort of come up with your own solution with what you have around you, and then there might be some compromises in the middle where if you have a little bit of budget or a little bit of room to spend something, then we might do that. So a professional lighting kit can be expensive. It can also require different space. It can require some knowledge of how to actually, set up the lights and what to do and the different things that you need to know about using lights. Well, the things that I've learned is that you can do quite a bit just by going outside. And I'm not trying to be glib about that. It's obviously not as easy as just going outside. Certainly, you are sort of at the behest of the weather, the time of day. If you are shooting something that you're intending to show in the summer and there's snow on the ground, you're going to create some interesting dissonance in there that is going to probably be a little bit distracting for your audience. So that obviously doesn't work. But you're never going to get a professional light that is as bright as the sun and that feels as good and warm as the sun. So sometimes just going outside, you might be surprised how much you can do. Also, lamps. I'm using lamps here today, and I'll be talking a little bit about what I'm using just here in my home office. Um, but the times that you would actually want a professional lighting setup, we're talking about like consistency across multiple shoots. If you want that same look every single time, you're going to, at that point, probably want to consider some sort of a professional lighting kit, lighting setup. If you want a very specific look, also, like if you're shooting a movie and not just like an interview or something, then you're getting into situations where you might want some more professional lighting. And then, like I said, if the weather or time of day just isn't appropriate, then you might be able to get pretty far with lamps. Things you might already have around your house, but you might want to consider lighting at that point. So taking a look at the standard three-point lighting setup, this is just the industry standard. If you're getting started, this is what everyone recommends, what you would learn in school. So right now, I'm using a lamp. I have it right over there. I'm using this as my fill light. It is a light that you can get at Lowe's or Menards or whatever else. It has 5 arms that stick out, like an octopus, and it uses GE Refresh HD bulbs. Now, we'll talk about bulbs in a minute. I'm going to get into some specifics on the specifications for different light bulbs to consider. But usually for a fill light, for this lamp, I have it bouncing off my ceiling. Now I'm in my attic. So again, your situation, you have to work with your environment and what you have around you. My ceiling is relatively low. I have a wall back here and a wall in front of me. So I bounce that light off of the white wall and it creates a really diffused light, a really soft light that kind of goes across. Now I do have some shadows going on. It's a little bit too close. It's been a little while since I've had to present from home, so my format's a little out of sync, but that is my fill light. Now, for the key light, I'm using the window, and we're in Champaign. It's the spring. It got a little bit darker, actually quite a bit darker versus this morning. So my key light is not really doing the job that I would like it to do today, unfortunately. In this situation, I would use a different lamp. Um, I happen to have one right here that I might use for something like this and just kind of shine it more on my face. Or I also have this Elgato Key Light Mini. These run for about $60, but you can find a variety of different options on Amazon or all sorts of different places. This little guy can do an incredible job. It can do all sorts of different color brightness levels, different lumens, different color temperatures, and things like that. You can set that up off to the side, kind of like it shows in the diagram, and that will get the job done. And then behind me, you might have saw as I moved out of the way, I have just a little Philips Hue lamp that's been, at this point, part of the family longer than my kids. I'm not really using it in the way that you see in the diagram, like as an actual backlight. It's just adding a splash of color to separate myself from the background, which is especially important when I'm using a webcam like I am right now, or a phone camera. Something that can separate you and make you stand out from the background makes your the quality, what you see, just kind of stand out just a little bit more. So I mentioned bulbs. Well, the bulb that you pick for your lamp matters quite a bit. There's all sorts of specifications that you'll see on bulbs these days. If you have an LED bulb, it's going to give you lumens. The bulbs will typically tell you lumens, but they equate it to wattage, the wattage we're used to with a typical incandescent light. So for example, my bulbs say 800 lumens, which is almost as bright as a 60-watt bulb. Color temperature is also important. You see the little moving animation there showing the different color temperatures. So for the time and place, kind of the mood that you're going for, then those cozy, sort of like the warm, sort of sunrise, sunset feeling lights, there's a time and a place for that that's good. For video, you probably want cooler light. But again, it partly depends on exactly what you're going for. For the lights I have here in front of me today, these are the 5000K. So that is going to be the brightest daylight sort of lights. Now, another thing that matters about the bulbs that you use is the CRI. So the CRI is kind of a description of the wavelengths of color that are being passed or outputted from the light itself. And the result is that it makes some colors pop. It makes them actually accurately represented in the space when you see them. Now, depending on zoom and what you see on your screen, there's some compression happening so that the graphic may not look especially good. But you see on the graph there, there's spikes for blue, for green, for red. To represent this a different way, if we were to look at a high CRI bulb, so like a 90 plus, it'll look, something like this when you see the wavelength that goes smoothly across from, that sort of red, yellow color all the way up to the blue and purple color. Well, if we were to do the same thing with a low CRI bulb, it comes out like this, where each color is distinct and firm. And the result is that when you're actually recording, it makes a big difference in how the video actually turns out. Sometimes it might be very subtle. Something just doesn't look right. It just doesn't feel right. Sometimes it might be, you might notice like a little flicker that maybe you didn't notice with the naked eye. It's quite important to do some test shoots with multiple options to see what looks best for whatever it is that you're trying to create. I would encourage you to experiment, try different arrangements, see what is going to work well for whatever it is that you're trying to do. All right, I've already sort of spilled the beans on this a little bit, but when it comes to camera equipment now, moving out of lights into cameras, You can buy a video camera that does incredible work with lots of settings and specifications, um, but you might be surprised what you can do with your actual cell phone. So this is the video camera that I use, Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. It does an incredibly good job. I've learned a lot. I've gotten some incredible shots with it. But when my kids are shooting, when we're doing films with them and whatnot, we're typically using my smartphone or the tablet they use or other things like that. And they still do pretty good. You can still get 4K video with a camera. There are some things to look out for though. And I want to call out yesterday. Adam Ron gave a great presentation titled Media Training for Marketers, where he talks about tips and tricks for composition, camera settings, Zoom calls, interview techniques, things like that. It was an excellent compliment to this session, and at one point he said, the lesser quality the camera, the harder it's going to be to get a good image. But there are a lot of really easy things we can do to mitigate these issues. And then he kind of goes on to talk about that. Now, these mitigation techniques are what will make the difference in your video looking really good on something like a cell phone. So I would encourage you to go check out his recording. We are going to be talking about some of those same techniques today as well. So stay on the line for that. One thing I have found particularly helpful is getting closer to the phone as you're doing it. For example, I'm relatively close to where my webcam is right now. It's sort of at arm's length away. And so you probably see again, it depends on the zoom compression and all these things. It probably depends a little bit on like what, the face. You can probably see it fairly clearly. You see details in my face that you might not be able to see if I was further away. But also the background appears maybe a little bit blurry, which is a good thing. Versus if I go back, now, if I'm back here, it's obviously not as good, and that's not only because I'm further away and because the lighting is weird. When I'm in the back, there's not as much opportunity for depth of field, for focus to really make you stand out from the background. So things like that make a big difference, and particularly with a phone where depth of field is not something that's easy to get, especially without any sort of optical zoom on a phone. You're going to want to get closer if you can. Now, when investing in a professional camera, you want to consider if you do actually need those advanced features. I just mentioned optical zoom. Um, Phones don't have optical zoom. And when I say optical zoom, I mean an actual piece of glass moving to adjust your zoom level. If you're using digital zoom, we'll talk about that in a minute. You should avoid that. But optical zoom will make a big difference. It will increase your depth of field, which will kind of create that blurry bokeh background, which is something else we'll talk about. And also increased depth of color, increased quality at different brightness levels. I'll show you a video in just a moment that represents this. So one comparison that I found to be pretty interesting is a comparison between these two cameras. Um, this is the DJI Ronin 4D, which is a camera that you could shoot a actual movie on, a Hollywood movie on if you wanted to. It is stabilized, has all sorts of advanced features and all that, versus the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which is pretty close to what you could get with your phone. It's going to be shooting 4K. It's going to have some stabilization features built in. But let's just do a quick comparison. So if I jump over to my video here, this is a great video by B&H Photo. They're comparing these two sort of a head-to-head for these different ones. And I have the audio muted, so don't expect to hear anything in the background. The scenario is that they are doing a comparison at a skating rink where they are shooting this figure skater kind of going through all these different examples. So first we have the professional video camera. He is, using it, as you can see on the screen right now. He's kind of going along. It's stabilized, and this is what the actual footage looks like. Now, I want you to note the colors, the slight blurriness in the background. I don't know if you can see the detail in her shirt and her outfit. There's pretty good quality in there and different levels of blackness that you can really make out more clearly. It's very clear and crisp, and I'm sure it'd be even more if this wasn't if this wasn't a video on YouTube that was also being now passed through Zoom. So notice this one right here in particular. Notice on my screen, I can see multiple levels of the blackness in her clothing. I can see this sort of background here and the brightness there, and just the incredible color that goes throughout this scene. Now, if we jump ahead to the other one, which is more representative of what you'd see with like a phone, he is going to be kind of sitting on this little device here and getting pushed around while using this little handheld phone device. So as he goes, um, still pretty good quality. However, the background is getting washed out. The whites are just kind of just pure white and losing some detail. She looks like a silhouette. There is no detail at all in the levels of blackness. And also the depth of field, like she's almost part of the background, right? She isn't like separate, and there isn't that background, kind of goodness that you get with a good optical zoom going on there. So those are some good examples. Now, you have to ask yourself, like, this is pretty good, right? I mean, for what is essentially a phone camera, it still looks really good. And that's partly the point that I'm trying to make here today, because if you compare these two cameras, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 costs about what a phone costs. It's about $600, which, for a modern top of the line or medium line smartphone, that's about what you're going to spend for a smartphone that you might already have in your pocket. Versus the DJI Ronin 4D. Do you want to guess how much that costs? Well, it is about $10,000 for the kit for that DJI Ronin 4D. So even though I can clearly see the difference between the two. Obviously, the cinema camera is how much higher quality. You have to ask yourself if it's worth the expense. Um, in some situations, certainly it is. In your situation, I guess you have to be the judge. All right, moving on to the next section. So, what about a computer? Well, the good news is that there are amazing tools out there that will run on just about any computer. DaVinci Resolve is a tool for editing and color correction and special effects and audio mixing that runs on a MacBook Air, a Windows Surface tablet, or even a Linux computer. So when is investing in a computer for editing worthwhile? Well, when the renders are taking too long, if you have to wait hours and hours and hours and you just don't have that time to wait, or you are needing to do other things, then that's a problem. Obviously, if the editing experience starts to feel a little gummy and slow, then it might be time to also consider investing in a computer, but it's probably not something that you need right out of the gate. You could probably get started right away. Now, DaVinci Resolve is free. It works on most computers, but it is fairly complex. Now, the interesting thing about DaVinci Resolve is it is actually the same software that Hollywood uses for a lot of the movies. So here's their website right now. These actual movies that you see on the screen, these Marvel movies, are edited, color corrected, special effects, all that stuff is done in a variety of tools, but DaVinci Resolve is one of them that they use. And I was sharing this with someone at the mixer last night, and he was like, "Oh man, well, how is it free? Like, where are they getting their money from?" Well, because they're going through Hollywood, they are selling not only, well, the software is free in this case, but they are selling an upgraded version of the software that most people don't need, that has a few extra features that are, particularly good for professionals. They also sell the cameras, like my camera is a Blackmagic camera, which is the same company that makes the software here. And then also they sell all sorts of additional editing equipment, the stuff you might have in a studio for editing. So, all these mixers and boards and things like that that you would have when you're doing this in a professional video studio, they're selling all those things. So offering this high quality software for free for, regular people and professionals to use is not that big of a deal for them, and we all get to benefit from it. But as I said, it is a little bit complicated to use. Um, There are layers, and if you stick to what you need, then it can be a great place to start and kind of get in and start using it. But if you do need help getting started, I will be teaching a 2-hour workshop at the Champaign Public Library on Monday, May 19th, 6:30 p.m. It will be hands-on with laptops provided by the library. You can sign up at the link I will put in the chat for you if you would like to sign up for that. The lessons will be available online after, so feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn or email. I'll provide that at the end. And I'd be happy to send you those online lessons that you can go through on your own. But if DaVinci feels like a little bit more than you're wanting to get into right now, never fear. There are some other more approachable video editing apps, and some of them might already be on your computer. So Descript is a really great software that I used a few years ago. It allows you to edit from a text. So it takes your video file, it converts, sort of transcribes it for you, and then you can edit just by changing like the text in the document. It can be really good. I know there are other tools that can do that sort of thing now too. So that's not the only option out there, but it is pretty easy to get into, very intuitive. Canva is one that you can run from the browser. So in theory, it should work on any computer or any device, maybe even. I've never tried it from a phone or a tablet, but in theory, I think it should work. And they do video editing for free too. At least some of the things that they can do on there are for free. And then iMovie. I've used iMovie, oh man, for decades at this point. It is for free on every Mac computer and even iPads and things like that. So there are lots of people who are just doing things on an iPad, on a phone, directly, video editing and everything. So you don't necessarily have to go out and do DaVinci Resolve or any other linear editing tool if that's not what you need. If you can get started with iMovie, start with iMovie. It can be a really great place to get in and learn. Adobe license for employees. So then, yeah, you could get in, do After Effects for your visual effects and things like that. And then I forget what the name of Premiere. Thank you, Premiere for Adobe's editing suite. There are pros and cons to each, but yeah, that can also be a great option. Now, as a bonus, I do want to call out Handbrake. Handbrake is an open source video transcoder available for Mac, Windows, and Linux. It will let you convert just about any video format to just about any other video format. So if you want to make whatever output you have, whatever video you have more accessible or optimized for web, or to be a different size, either just like dimension size or space size, it can do it for you. There are plenty of times where I've finished my project, I've exported it in Resolve, and then I'll throw it into Handbrake just to shrink it down a little bit more and to make it more accessible for sharing. So that is another free and available software for you to use. All right. Moving on to microphones. So microphones are actually one area that you might need to make a small investment. People are more likely to forgive visual problems than poor audio. Like poor audio quality, the crackling or quietness or a buzz in the background are just really tough it makes them really tough to actually stay and pay attention. People will hop away from a video that has bad audio. And unfortunately, phones by default just don't do a great job of capturing audio most of the time. So there are options. The professional option that I show here on the screen, you might have a mic on a boom arm that's sort of being held out over top of the people who are speaking, and that works really great. You might have something that sits on your desk, like a Shure SM7B or a Blue Yeti microphone or something like that. I personally, though, I'd like to start with a mobile kind of focused lavalier mic. Like you see on the right side there, that's a Rode Pocket. I'm sorry, a Rode Wireless Go microphone. You can clip it onto your shirt. You can clip it even under your shirt, so it's completely hidden. It picks up. It's great quality. That will plug directly into your phone or tablet or whatever device that you want to use. And it's around 200, 250, something like that, dollars. Personally, the equipment that I have a newer brand. It's Neewer wireless microphone kit. It's around $100, even cheaper if there's a sale going on. It includes also two lavalier mics that you can snap on or use magnets on, and it includes adapters for both like a USB-C plug if you want to plug that into your phone, or a lightning cable if you have an older iPhone or tablet. So you can plug it in directly. You get the little indicator showing how well it's working. The range is incredible, so you don't have to be right up in someone's face. And the quality is so good. I've been so impressed with how good the quality is on these fairly inexpensive wireless lavalier mics. Now, if you have no budget, if you have, like nothing that you can spend on this, even just getting a like $10, $5 like plug-in lavalier mic that you can find from anywhere online. If you can plug that into your phone, stick the phone in your pocket, hit record, and clip it on your, lapel or shirt or whatever, that is still going to be significantly better than whatever is coming out of the phone directly. So always do that if you can. I always recommend also having a backup audio source. I've been doing this now for quite a while, and the number of times that a just a simple little handheld microphone, a little hand like audio recorder that was just sitting on the desk in front of me because it saved the day because something didn't go right, the batteries died, or something wasn't clipped quite right, or they were moving and it was creating all this like buzz from their beard or from their shirt or whatever. Just always have a backup if you can. Just something recording the audio, and whether it's that phone in your pocket with a lavalier mic, whether it's your phone audio itself, always do that if you can. Right? And when is investing in professional microphones worthwhile? Well, if you don't, if it kind of feels unprofessional to see a little microphone clipped on here, or the little magnet kind of sticking on the outside of someone's shirt or something, then obviously, that's when you'd want the boom mic, something that's out of frame so you don't see that. If you have multiple people involved, particularly more than two, then you're going to want something that's a little bit more professional, a little bit more articulate to be able to do that appropriately. Um, Other things going on in the room, if there's either a lot of noise going on in the room that you don't want to capture, or if there are activities happening in the room that you do want to capture, in either of those situations, then things are going to get a little bit more interesting outside of the usual, like sitting and doing an interview sort of format. So that's another time that you might want to include some more professional microphones. And then last but not least, you want a specific sound. If you have ever listened to a podcast or a YouTube video, or people streaming on Twitch or whatever service before, you have definitely heard the sound of someone talking on an SM7B microphone. It's just has a very warm, very sort of radio sound where it's like, oh, that is a professional microphone. Like it just sounds very clear most of the time, not all the time. You've definitely heard it before. If you want that sort of sound, you're not going to get that out of a little lavalier microphone. It's just not going to happen. So you might need to get a actual condenser microphone, something that's a little bit more professional, that is higher quality, that has a preamp and some extra equipment kind of behind the scenes, keeping track of those levels and things like that. Um, all right, moving on to an area you might not have thought of, and that's a teleprompter. And this may not be appropriate if you are trying to create a film. And again, we're talking a little bit about storytelling and things like that. But if you've ever had to read a script, then you'll understand the pain of not having a teleprompter. Now, there's some good news. There's teleprompter software that can run on your phone, tablet, or software. And I would just recommend if you do that, get the camera as close to the screen as possible. There's the little screenshot you see, or the little picture on the slide on the right side there. I would even try to get the camera just even a little bit closer. Um, my daughter recently shot a short documentary for a contest, and we actually did it. I was holding my phone to record it, and then her script was on a laptop that was sitting on my lap. So I was sitting down, the laptop was open, and I was holding the phone almost in front of the screen. So I was holding it there, and she was reading it. And when I went back to watch the footage, I could not tell that she was reading at all. So you can do quite a bit with just having your screen, having a phone or whatever device that you're recording the video on, and just get it as close to the text as you can. Um, some other strategies, though, certainly if you want to get the actual software, you can get that for free. You know, there's lots of different options. It will do auto scrolling, which can be really helpful if you have lots of content you're trying to read through. I'd kind of recommend, though, if you are able to do it, try to consider taking multiple short takes instead of just a long read. If you have B-roll, you know, like if you have additional video that's not you talking, like looking at your face, but if you're talking about the campus and then as you're talking, you cut to campus or you talk to students or you cut to, you know, a classroom or something like that, and then you cut back to you talking to the camera again. That sort of extra footage is B-roll. And you can do it in such a way that you take multiple short takes. Maybe you memorize the sentence you need to say, you say it very clearly looking at the camera, and then you can cut those together and use the B-roll so that you can't even tell that it was multiple takes. You can make it really smooth, it looks really great, and then you don't have to worry about memorizing the entire thing or having a teleprompter or anything like that. However, if you do have a little bit of money to spend, I would recommend, I have this myself, the Parrot Padcaster. Um, it lets you use your own device, so it's literally just like a couple pieces of plastic with that type of that special mirror that is like the one-way mirror that you use for teleprompters and other things like that. And what it does is I just put my phone in the bottom part. It reflects off the screen and into my eyes, and so the software there, it comes with a clicker, so you can actually progress or pause or forward, backwards, things like that. And then on the other side, there's a little interface that you can connect to your camera, whether it's a lens, with a filter or anything like that, or it's a webcam, or in this case, the picture you see there, it's actually an iPad. So it's able to connect to it, and then that works very well. Those run from about $100. I think it was $100 when I bought it originally, up to like 150. It kind of depends on the model and what you want. If you want an upgrade from there, then I highly recommend the Elgato Prompter. It takes it a little bit a step further, and it has an actual built-in screen that extends your desktop. So in this case, if you see the screenshot on the left side there, that's the pad, or I'm sorry, the Elgato Prompter sitting on top of the computer. The built-in screen is, it's plugged into the computer itself, and so in the demonstration there, it's actually on Zoom. I right now am using an Elgato prompter, and I am looking directly at my speaker notes. I can see my picture. I don't see my camera at all. I just see my speaker notes right there and what my current slide is. And it's beautiful. It's amazing being on Zoom and being able to look directly into the eyes of the people I'm talking to. And my camera is right behind it, hidden. I don't see it at all. And it works so beautifully for that. But because it extends my screen, I can put anything up there. I can be working and have like some help video up on the screen above my monitor. So it's just a little extra screen real estate if you need that. And then those times that you do need to actually go through and use it as a teleprompter, the software that's built in with that is incredibly good. It's actually able to detect your voice and progress or skip ahead in the script as you go. So if you're improvising a little bit and then you pick back up where you left off or something, it will automatically detect that and progress and kind of go at the pace at which you're speaking. Incredibly helpful. I love it. It is well worth the price, in my opinion. It goes retail for $279. I've got it on sale, I want to say for about 200. And again, I personally think it's well worth it. All right. So, if you don't want to go out and buy something, well, consider other options. Make sure that you actually benefit from something before you ask for the budget, before you spend the budget and end up with equipment that you might not actually know how to use or actually want to use. So some options for this might be your local library. They have equipment. They even have space that you can use to do things like this. I've already mentioned the Champaign Public Library, but they have this wonderful new studio in the basement where it's usually an after-school thing, but in the weekends, adults and other people can go in there too. They have a part of the studio with like sound booths and video equipment and a green screen and you can go in there and check out their equipment and jump in and start using it right away. The Urbana Free Library also has a number of resources. So no matter where you are, I'm sure there are resources through your local library to try things out. If you are local, the media studio also has well-furnished space with everything you need and more. It has professional equipment all the way around, whether it's microphones, lighting, video equipment, the mixers, and things like that. Obviously, as you can see in the picture, they also have the soundstage set up and ready to go, and it can be adjusted as needed, and they have training. So if this is something that you would like to use, I was told even you don't even have to be part of a department. You don't have to be part of the university to come in and take some of the training and actually make use of this stuff. So if you're local, I'd highly recommend checking this out. Kind of get in, get some experience using the equipment and see how it's used before you consider buying the equipment yourself. And then, consider your friends or colleagues. If you already have someone or, a friend or someone in a different department that has the equipment that you're thinking about, consider asking them if you can borrow that, ask them if they can show it to you. Just get some experience, get your hands on it and see if it's something that you're actually going to make use of. But if none of that really sounds all that interesting, if everything I've shared so far sounds a little bit on the overwhelming and anxious sort of side of things, then it's okay to consider hiring someone too. They should have the equipment and the experience to do the job, and it may actually cost you less in the long run. So that's okay. There's no shame in doing that if this is not something that you are excited to get into. All right, a little bit about composition and production. I'm probably going to go through this a little bit quickly, only because I mentioned Adam's talk earlier, media training for marketers. He does a great job of going through composition already. So I'm just going to go a little bit faster, maybe. I would also recommend John Moist's talk yesterday about leveling up your interviews. If you plan to interview someone on video, or I guess audio too, you must watch that recording. It was excellent. He's an excellent public speaker and gave really practical and down-to-earth tips and tricks that I personally am going to be using myself for the interviews that I'm doing. All right, so a highlight of some of the composition tips and tricks we're going to be talking about. Do not use digital zoom, please. It is terrible, and we'll talk about why. The rule of thirds, stabilization techniques, background blurriness, and overall lighting and mood. So first of all, please do not use digital zoom. Your phone, you can like pinch to zoom if you want to, and it zooms in. And initially it feels okay. Like it might look fine when you try to zoom in. But man, if you compare these two here, I don't know if the quality is coming through with the compression through Zoom and whatnot, but that zoomed in version is just a little bit blurry. It's not quite as clear. And unfortunately, if you go in post, if you go in afterwards with DaVinci Resolve or whatever tool you use, there is nothing you can do to make that clearer. If you need to zoom out or see the context of what's going on, there's nothing you can do about that. Versus if you are zoomed out, you can always zoom in. You can always make it better. If something is a little bit shaky, you can add, with DaVinci Resolve, you can add some automatic stabilization. So it will actually zoom in the picture a little bit and then automatically adjust the framing so it appears perfectly stable. But if you digitally zoom in, there's nothing you can do to fix that. So please do not do that if you can. Don't believe your screen. If it looks clear on your screen and you've zoomed in, it's not actually as good as you think it is, probably. The rule of thirds. The idea here, and again, Adam goes into this really well, but you want to line up on these rule of thirds. Those are sort of guidelines you can add to your screen, whether it's a professional camera or even your phone. There are options in the settings to turn this on, and there's ways, basically by following the guidelines, it makes it more pleasing to the eye. It's just sort of a hack, I suppose. But in addition, think about what's around your subject. Is there anything distracting around them, behind them? Is it too dark? Is it too bright? Think about making those adjustments. Another thing that I've noticed sometimes is the background too close to them? Do you need to scoot them away from the background a little bit? Those are all things that you should consider. Another example with the sort of rule of thirds thing going on. All right, stabilizing your footage. So if as you go and you have movement and things like that going on, I'd recommend if you're holding a phone, hold it with both hands. You also want to spread your legs so they're about shoulder length or maybe a little bit further apart. So you have a really good stable platform that you're holding it on. And then you want to tuck your arms. You want to put your arms sort of up close to your chest. And in theory, that will give you a little bit of a more steady, a steady platform to hold the camera to get more steady footage with your camera or tablet or whatever it might be. Another technique that you may have seen videographers use in the past is sort of a gentle rock back and forth. What you want to avoid, and part of what that's helping with is those little micro vibrations. There's like little kind of bumps and nicks that can happen if you're maybe tense or holding it too tightly. Those are really tough to get out with the stabilization stuff and post-processing, whereas a very gentle sort of movement sometimes can look really good. It can actually improve the production quality by just a little bit of extra movement. And if you do decide that you want to stabilize it, that can usually be easier to stabilize in editing and post-processing versus, just holding it really super tightly. Of course, if you can get a tripod or a monopod or something just to give you like a third leg to stand on to stabilize it, that does an even better job. Um, Even if you have your phone or tablet, even if you have like a cheap, something from Best Buy, something from the dollar store, even just a cheap piece of plastic that holds your phone, that is going to do a better job than you holding it yourself sometimes, especially if you're trying to record yourself. Now, again, if you do have a little bit of extra money, there are stabilizers out there that can kind of put your phone in a gimbal, and it is completely, independent of your hand, and so it will stay locked onto you even if you move around all sorts of different directions. Lots of people on Instagram who do a lot of work on there have something like that to stabilize their footage, and it works really well. The DJI Ronin is one that costs a little bit extra, but they have different sizes, so even the professional cameras can use a little bit of stabilization, and that is really helpful. All right, we are running out of time. I've talked a little bit about bokeh and depth of field already, so I'm gonna move forward and skip past that a little bit. Color and motion. So, I mentioned earlier that sort of warm sunset light for the different color temperatures. Well, when is that appropriate? Think about that when you're composing your video and what's the story that you're trying to tell? What's the emotion that you're trying to get across? Would a flash of color make it more interesting? Or do I need a very dramatic lighting with bold, like black and white and like almost like a film noir or a mystery sort of feeling? It's not for every situation, but it's good to be thinking about that when you are producing your stories. When you are recording from your desk, think about the software that you're using. So in this case, I'm thinking like if I'm recording something for me to send to someone else, not necessarily like a Zoom meeting that I'm jumping into, but there are times that I'll open Zoom and hit record on there because I know it's easy and convenient to do that. You can also use an app called which is free and available, and it creates like different compositions of like your headshot versus your background, your slides and things like that. And then a tool like QuickTime, which again is on every Mac already. You can record your screen, you can record your audio or both. It does an excellent job as well. All right. Are you having fun? Now, if you are having fun, just keep in mind, perfect is the enemy of done or the enemy of good, depending on who you ask. And so always try to get the content out the door. That is the most important thing. And consider practicing by copying. If you see something, you're like, oh man, they did a great job on that. I'd love to make something like that. Well, try to make something like that. Go find a YouTube video of someone doing something really cool or that kind of captures the emotion of what you're trying to do and try to recreate it in some way. And maybe you'll make something really cool too. All right, I have some resources here, and again, I apologize that my slides were not exactly consistent with what was uploaded. I will get those updated for everyone later, but here are some things to note, and I will open it up to questions. If you would like to get in touch, I am on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me that way, and then my email address here is on the screen.
There was just one question from the chat earlier on. Let me go back and find it. Colin asks, do you like, I believe they were asking about Resolve. Do you like Resolve more or less than Premiere or Final Cut?
So I've never used Premiere. I used Final Cut, I mean, 15 years ago in back in college. So it's been long enough that I probably do not have a good idea of what that's
Yeah,
like
and I think
anymore.
you kind of addressed that on the fly. Maybe you didn't even see my question, but you kind of addressed, you talked about Adobe, and I will point out, like anyone at U of I think it extends to any staff member, has a free Adobe license, and you can even it allows you to take it home to your personal device as well. So definitely take advantage of that, or look into it, check it out, see if that applies to you and your position and all that. But I think that extends to a lot of staff. So definitely look into that.
Cool. Thank you,
But
Colin.
Resolve is free, right?
Resolve is completely free.
Yeah, see,
Like,
and that's a good way. I mean, that's a good point right there. You never have to worry about it again if you get used to Resolve. So
right.
anyway, thanks, man. It's been great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I see Crystal asked, do we use the free or paid version of Resolve? So I ended up getting the paid version of Resolve for free because my camera, if you buy a Blackmagic camera, they just give you a license for the studio version, which I think is an extra like 250 or something. I don't think I've used any of the studio features though. Um, like I said, it's usually intended for professionals, and like there's some pretty advanced stuff in there that weren't really applicable to what I do every day. So I don't think I've used it a whole lot.
Probably like if you want to do advanced time code synchronization across, very, crazy stuff like that that we probably don't need.
Right. Yeah, I did see that there is some like new features around like neural like AI, stuff, but again, that's an area that I haven't had any reason to get into yet.
That's the other session's been talking about. The AI stuff.
Right. I see Holly asked, is my Champaign Public Library workshop free? Yes, it is. And no, you do not need to bring your laptop. The laptops are being provided by the Champaign Public Library, and they're preloaded with Resolve. All of the files we'll be working with will be in my LMS, and something we'll download together when we start the class. So you don't need to bring anything, and it's free. You just have to sign up. One topic that I have that we're out of time for that I will include in the slides that I send over to the WebCon folks, so check this out later, is thinking about personas and specifically who your audience is, why they clicked on your video in the first place, what sort of emotion or action you want them to feel. So that is another area to think about if you have time and want to check out the slides later. Like I said, I will include those. It's just a way of thinking about kind of before you even hit record or get your equipment, what is it you're creating? Why are you creating it? It's a little bit of a, not even really super related to this topic necessarily, but extra, and I hope it's useful to someone.
All right. It looks like we don't have any more questions. I want to thank David for this wonderful and highly informative session. I personally enjoyed it. I hope everybody who came enjoyed it as well. Thank you all for attending this session. And I will give you, if you need some help getting back to the conference, the session page, the portal for the conference there, I've linked it for you. And please do fill out that survey at the end. It'll be in the portal. It's not going to be attached to the Zoom session here. And we do pay attention to that feedback. So if there's something you want to see more of, if there's something that you want us to improve on, please let us know. And the next session will begin at 2:45. So I hope you enjoy the final session of the conference. And if I don't see you again, I hope you all had a wonderful time here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Megan and Jerica, and all the attendees and all the people at WebCon. I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and I appreciate you being here today.
This was great. Thank you.